Our intrahepatic cholestasis of pregnancy journey starts back in 2015 with my son Bennett, who is now 9. It was a very uncomplicated pregnancy up until the 28-week mark, when I was diagnosed with gestational diabetes. So from there on, I was referred on to an obstetrician from my general practitioner, and was followed on a weekly basis. We received fetal monitoring every week, and were very, very, very closely monitored. At about 36 weeks is when our intrahepatic cholestasis of pregnancy journey kind of started. All of a sudden, it seemed like overnight, I was itchy on the palms of my hands and my feet, which was very unusual. But like a lot of mums, I thought, hey, it's probably just the middle of winter, because Bennett was due in January. So we thought, well, that's probably what it is. But I brought it up with my doctor, and they sent away for blood work. Intrahepatic cholestasis of pregnancy was never even talked about. It wasn't even mentioned. I didn't know that they sent away for my liver enzymes to check that out. And later I found, by getting my chart notes after our second pregnancy, that ICP was diagnosed, and it sat in my chart. And the reason why we didn't know about it was because we were receiving regular fetal monitors, and my son Bennett was growing, and was over 9 pounds and needed to be delivered early at 38 weeks. So he came into the world safe and beautiful, and we're just so grateful for him. And so part of our journey is that beauty, and ICP was a part of that, a hard part, but was a part of that. Fast forward 5 years later, and we had waited and tried for our second, and our miracle was here. After 6 miscarriages, our second son was on the way. We didn't know we were having a boy. And the craziest part was, he was due on Bennett's birthday. Couldn't have been more perfect. And right away, I noticed at around 5.5 weeks of pregnancy, I knew I was pregnant, and instantly I was terribly sick. Later diagnosed a couple weeks later with hyperemesis gravidarum, which is a comorbid condition with ICP. But at the time, lots of women have hyperemesis gravidarum. So, they just said, oh, it's, good, like lots of hormones, you have a healthy pregnancy and all the things. But the craziest part was that I actually only could eat things that was actually healthy for my liver, like oatmeal and lemon water. So those are the only things that I could keep down. And now I know that that was due to a liver condition that was not diagnosed and not looked at. Fast forward to 28 weeks again, I'm diagnosed with gestational diabetes, and now we know that also that's a comorbid condition, and that I had in my first pregnancy as well. So I was terribly sick to about 22 weeks, 28 weeks diagnosed with GD, and then we were getting ready to have our son. Again, a January baby, so we're thinking that there might be some complications there, but that's where we were. I'm diagnosed with GD, so I'm sent away to an obstetrician, and that obstetrician chose not to do any fetal monitoring, which is not a standard. The standard is to do fetal monitoring for GD, but chose not to do fetal monitoring. And we wondered whether or not it was because of COVID, because it was the middle of COVID that we got pregnant with Beau. So fast forward to about 35.5 weeks, so at Bennett, it was about 36 weeks that we found out that we had, that I had an itch. 35.5 weeks, all of a sudden, insatiable itch, and it was everywhere, not just on my hands and feet, it was everywhere, sides of my stomach. I remember scratching my face, my neck. It was like I was crawling in my skin. And I remember saying to my obstetrician and pulling down my pants and going, what is this? Like, because I was bloodied and bruised all the way down my side from scratching so badly. And she said, it might be a condition called intrahepatic cholestasis of pregnancy. But she said, in very rare instances, it may cause stillbirth. But she said, it's more of an annoyance to mom. Boy, was she ever wrong. ended up being diagnosed with that condition. Now it took 11 days for the bile acid testing to come back. In that time, I developed secondary symptomology. So pale stool, dark urine, my nausea came back with a vengeance. I lost my appetite. And I didn't know that these were all secondary factors. I had visual disturbances, possible implications of having preeclampsia, which is another liver condition. But at the time, my OB kept saying to me, "You're fine, baby's fine," because Beau was fine. He was beautiful and he was healthy and he was kicking away. And at 37 and a half weeks, they decided that, my bile acids came back at a severe level, and that I likely needed a early delivery. But they gave me the choice of whether or not I should have the delivery that day or the next day, not thinking that it was 11 days ago that I was diagnosed with a severe liver condition with severe ICP at a bile acid level of 61. And that all of my symptoms have actually amped up and has gotten much worse. And so at that point, I was scheduled for a C-section the next day. I was put on a non-stress test, and the non-stress test was read improperly. Beau had an arrhythmia in his heart. I was only put on for 16 minutes, and they said that Beau was fine and I was fine. Beau actually kicked the puck monitors off twice, and his movements were quite erratic. But I just thought, we're excited, and maybe that this is all of a symptom of that. You're a mom just so excited to have your little one in your life. And so fast forward to the next morning, I crawled up to Bennett's room, and I went in beside him at 4:30 in the morning. And Beau just kicked away at his face, and just so lovingly. And we were just so excited and so scared and all the things to have Beau. We went to the hospital, and everything, the worst thing that a parent could ever hear happened. And they said to me, "I'm sorry, there's no heartbeat." And I said, "That's impossible. He was just moving. That's impossible." And we were there to have a C-section. We were there to meet our son that morning. The car was ready. We were packed up. We had everything. And it was the most traumatic and tragic thing that has ever happened to us as a family. My husband and I couldn't admit to ourselves that we actually heard his heartbeat on the first Doppler. And the nurse thought, that there was something wrong with the Doppler, so she left to get another one. And in that time, he lost his heartbeat. Beau had meconium aspiration, which is also a symptom of ICP and a risk. Preterm labor is a risk, as well as no amniotic fluid, low amniotic fluid, and I had zero amniotic fluid left. Our little guy hung on as long as he could. It was a horrible, the worst thing that ever could happen to us as a family. My son lost his brother. We lost our son. My parents and my husband's parents lost their grandbaby, and many aunts and uncles lost their nephew in a moment of an instant. And I also, in that time too, I worked at that hospital and lost my career, because no parent can step back into the hospital that their child passed away in. Intrahepatic cholestasis of pregnancy took our son's life in an instant, in the time that he should have been delivered. He lost his heartbeat and had a cardiac arrest. He came out pink and beautiful because he had just passed away at that time. We didn't know about ICP cares at the time. We were told that nothing was wrong. That was an annoyance to me. I wasn't scared because I had the same condition with my son Bennett, and he's here and beautiful. I never worried about anything. Nobody did. Our medical professionals didn't worry about it. They weren't concerned about it. Nobody showed any stress, even though they knew that I had a severe liver condition. My ICP after Beau's delivery went away. Same with Bennett, it went away. But it took everything from us. And so we want everyone to know the impact that intrahepatic cholestasis of pregnancy can have. It's now listed as a common pregnancy condition, and yet, and as common as preeclampsia, and yet it's not noted, it's not understood by our medical professionals, it's not known how to manage it. If I had fetal monitors, they would have known that my amniotic fluid was low, that there was presence of meconium staining. They would have known so many things, but they didn't. And that's what we're wanting to change. And I found ICP Cares after Bo passed away, and their mission, and I knew that I needed to become a part of it. I knew I needed to bring ICP Care's mission and their information to the medical professionals here in Canada. I don't ever want this to be anyone else's story. We've had 3 miscarriages after Bo, and likely we'll never have any more children. ICP has taken that from us. This is my family now. And what we look like, the 4 of us, in a different way. And we thank ICP Care in saving other babies' lives. And we wish it could have been our Bo.